Now, look, I'm not here to kink shame. If Keir Starmer sticking his tongue up Donald Trump's backside is your thing, if that's what gets you, how do we put it, excited, then no judgment from me. Guess if I was going to be, I don't know, a little pernickety, then I might gently suggest there should be a very clear demarcation between this extremely niche fetish and political journalism. Unfortunately, however, Starmer's truly grotesque performance with Donald Trump, a man he aggressively denounced when he was pretending to be left-wing so he could be elected Labour leader, has received some rather unfortunate coverage, let's put it that way, from the British media. The Daily Mirror, whose front page once plastered a picture of Donald Trump alongside a liar and a cheat until the bitter end, this time splashes a very special relationship, Keir's trump card. How droll. The Daily Mail goes for what an unlikely bromance. Forgive me, incidentally, if I start retching at any point. While the Daily Express, which is somewhat more right-wing than Genghis Khan, gets really rather hot and bothered with Trump backs great trade deal for Brexit Britain. Now, Keir Starmer has said some choice things about Donald Trump. In February 2017, he denounced an article for being too sympathetic to Trump, saying the battle of Trump versus rule of law and human rights is real. We need to be clear. Don't accept his agenda. In another tweet in June 2018, he shared what was called harrowing audio of sobbing children separated from their parents at US immigration centres, adding humanity and dignity, 2 words not understood by President Trump. A truly great country treats all people with humanity and dignity. In June 2019, he tweeted, an endorsement from Donald Trump tells you everything you need to know about what is wrong with Boris Johnson's politics and why he isn't fit to be Prime Minister. On the 31st of October 2019, he tweeted, Donald Trump endorses Boris Johnson, another reason to #vote Labour on 12th December. Now, given Starmer's going to negotiate a trade deal with the US under Donald Trump, it is notable that in November 2019, he also tweeted, Boris Johnson is prepared to sell off the NHS to Donald Trump's America. This election, you can stop him by voting Labour. Now, in January 2020, when he was standing to be Labour leader, he tweeted, the government's response to Donald Trump's actions is not good enough. The UK government should hold him to account for his actions and stand up for international law, not tacitly condone the attack. In this case, by the way, he was talking about a US airstrike on an Iranian general in Iraq. Could you even imagine this happening now? He also added the international community needs to re-engage, not isolate Iran. Does this man believe in anything? Genuinely. So look, Starmer's in the White House having a loving with Trump, who he kept touching, by the way. Starmer, that is. Extremely weird. Clearly something planned. He handed Trump an invitation letter from King Charles to Donald Trump, asking him for an unprecedented second state visit.
And it is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you. So can I present the letter from the King to
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
I will do.
I've got to tell him what your reaction is, so I need to know.
He's a great gentleman. A great, great gentleman. Oh, that's well. Well, that is really nice. I must make sure his signature's on that. Otherwise, it's not quite as meaningful.
It's an invitation for a second state visit. This is really special. This has never happened before. This is unprecedented.
Well, I'm surely not the only one to feel little tingles there. Then there was this.
We've met a couple of times, and I'm very impressed with him and very impressed with his wife. I must say, she's a beautiful, great woman.
Yeah, a bit creepy. Not his creepiest behaviour, sure. Don't get me wrong, he's a sexual predator who's preyed on multiple women. On substantive issues, though, check this out.
On issues like Ukraine, thank you for changing the conversation to bring about the possibility that now we can have a peace deal, and we want to work with you to make sure that peace deal is enduring, that it lasts, that it's a deal that goes down as a historic deal.
Sorry, what? On issues like Ukraine, thank you for changing the conversation to bring about the possibility that we can have a peace deal. You what? Starmer's position was arm Ukraine to allow it to fight to the end. Trump's position is Ukraine has to surrender significant swathes of its land, among other things, as well as calling Ukraine's President Zelensky a dictator, though notice Trump's response when that was brought up.
Zelensky is a dictator.
Did I say that? I can't believe I said that. Next question.
As Novara Media's Aaron Bastani notes, any of Starmer's own MP pushing a peace deal several years ago was liable to be suspended. Now, let's just go through the claims of the major triumph for Sir Keir Starmer, our beloved Prime Minister. Before he went to the US, he decided he needed to present the far-right US president with a special gift. Now, Trump has been demanding European nations hike their defence spending. So Starmer decided to give Trump a nicely wrapped gift, hiking British military spending. He claimed it go up by about 13.4 billion quid. Now, that's actually a deceit. A deceit from Keir Starmer? No. As if perish that thought. Paul Johnson from the Institute for Fiscal Studies says the government is playing silly games with numbers. In real terms, it's more like 6 billion. But he's funding splashing out on weapons by decimating Britain's aid budget. The Labour manifesto last year promised to restore development spending to 0.7% of GDP, that's the overall economic output, as soon as possible. It's now being slashed from the current 0.5% of income down to 0.3% in 2027. That's a Labour government doing the biggest cut to overseas aid in history. Paul Johnson from the Institute for Fiscal Studies again says the effective cut in aid is even bigger in practice. Look, whatever you think about increasing defence spending, this crew have no interest in, asking the rich to pay more money. They'll obliterate the aid budget, an idea which would once put you on the hard right of British politics. New Labour types talking about Blair and Brown would put international aid right at the top of the things they're proud of. And it's so extreme, in fact, it actually has led to a rare sighting of that endangered species, a Labour politician with a spine. Annalise Dodds, the international aid minister, has resigned from the government, stating Starmer says he wants to continue support for Gaza, Sudan and Ukraine, for vaccination, for climate and for what she says are rules-based systems. But she says it will be impossible to maintain these priorities given the depth of the cut and adds the effect will be far greater than presented. She says the cuts will remove food and healthcare from desperate people, harming the UK's reputation. She also makes clear, if you read between the lines, she thinks this is about Starmer being Trump's puppet. She says Starmer maintains he's not ideologically opposed to international development, but adds the reality is already that this decision is being portrayed as following in President Trump's slipstream of cuts to US aid. Indeed, just to underline how comically devoid of beliefs these people are, at the beginning of the month, the Foreign Secretary David Lammy warned that Trump's foreign aid cuts were a big strategic mistake, which would allow China to grow its power. By the way, that's true, clearly. I'm writing a book called The Fall of the West, Declaring Interest, but this is all clearly about the decline, the fall of the West. But then when his boss told him otherwise, he changed his record pretty quickly. He wrote a Guardian column saying we have to make cuts. David Lammy is frankly hilarious, the most slippery, unprincipled politician on earth, other than, say, Keir Starmer. Is this trip a success? Now, a lot of political journalists clearly had a great little jolly, getting to hang out at the White House and everything, overcome with excitement about what a triumph it all is. So it's welcome that Freddie Hayward at the New Statesman punctured this groupthink bullshit. The big red line of Starmer and his crew was supposed to be Ukraine. Do you remember all that? But now, as Hayward notes, Trump dismissed the idea of even providing air cover, claiming the presence of US workers would be a deterrence. Trump just said Putin would keep his word on a peace deal. The sort of, in any case, whatever, as if before Starmer would take that seriously, the sort of peace deal Starmer supposedly thought was completely unacceptable a couple of weeks ago. Indeed, note this part.
Could you take on Russia by yourselves?
Well,
all right, one or two more.
I mean, Freddie Hayward notes the big success was supposed to be Trump backing the Chagos deal, but that deal is Britain paying billions of pounds so the US Air Force can keep using Diego Garcia. That's great for the US. I mean, it's not, why is that? Why is that some great success? As for a trade deal, as Hayward notes, if the UK does get a free trade deal with the US, who do you think will get better terms? An economic behemoth with an isolated, stagnant economy. Adding if Washington extracts concessions in big tech, agricultural trade, and service access in exchange for not imposing non-existent tariffs, is that a victory for the UK? I think that's what we're looking at, isn't it, guys? And that's before we talk about Trump supporting the mass violent removal of Gaza's surviving Palestinian population. Starmer's not even pretending to care about that. What is the triumph here? Britain becoming more dependent on Donald Trump's US. Are we supposed to get excited about that? Sure, if you go gooey need at Trump lapping up being flattered, then this is your thing. But no, not just Starmer and his team here, but Starmer's supporters, so-called liberals. These people rightly did do fiery denunciations of Trump as a fascist, a threat to democracy, a threat to peace, you name it. And now they're cheering all this on. Why? Because like their man, they don't really care about anything. They don't care about any basic principles at all. Please like and subscribe, leave your thoughts in your comments. Help us as we expand the operation and different platforms at patreon.com/Jones84. Listen to us for the podcast, which is now up, so you can stop looking at me if you want. I look forward to speaking to you a bit.